Hey, Steve Shenbaum here. I'm beaming because we are laughing with, for this episode, Bryce Tone. Bryce Tone usually is on the other side of the camera because he is the president, founder, grand poobah of Tone Media, and he's running Tone Media with his wife, Jewel. But I want to just explain, this is a little bit of like a shifted lens episode because we are laughing with Bryce Tone. Bryce, we asked you to be on camera, not behind the lens, but the whole focus is going to be what you see from your lens. So I celebrate you, man, because it's not always easy to go from behind the camera to in front of the camera, right?
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, I'm not used to being in front of the camera, even like right now.
Yeah.
Because normally I have headphones on, so everything sounds a little different and like enhanced in a way. So it's like, even just you talking right now, I'm like, wait, it sounds so weird because it's not, I don't have headphones on. So it's
so
like
wild. I love the shift in perspective. I love the shift in lens. I also will tell our listeners and our viewers that Bryce is one of my favorite young people. And I feel like a kid in the candy store when I'm around you because I love young people that are hungry to make a difference. And both you and your wife, Jewel, who was part of YWAM years ago, Youth with a Mission. I like to give a shout out. And I'm looking at Jewel right now because she's the one with the headphones on. I just think it's really cool what you're doing and getting after it as an entrepreneur. So we always start laugh with a moment that brought you joy, that brought you levity. It doesn't have to be some funny setup punchline joke. But Bryce, now that you're on this side of the camera, what's something recently or even from way back when that made you laugh?
So I do want to say before I get into the laugh with moment, because we've had a couple of them recently, I just want to honor Steve for a second and I just appreciate you so much. You know, we started this business a year and a half ago and we've come a really long way, and you truly were our first like real client, you could say, that really gave us a chance, and I just really appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. And it's been so fun working with you and just how consistent you are, like as a person. You know, he doesn't just, preach, and, he practices what he teaches. And I think that's something that you don't really see too much nowadays. You know, I've met a lot of really successful people, and a lot of times they're a certain person up front, and then when you get to know them, there's some other darker side of them, maybe you could say. But Steve is just consistent, a solid dude through and through. So I just appreciate that so much.
Thank you, Bryce. I have to tell you, I do receive it. You're dealing now with two encouragers on a podcast,
yeah,
which is like so fantastic. We're going to get to know questions. Like, you're great. No, you're great. No, you're great. No, you're great. Thank you. Received, and I appreciate it. And I'm imperfectly out there, if you will, but I received that gift. All right, Bryce.
Yeah, so laugh with moment. I would say, like I said, we have a few of them, but I'd say something that really stuck out to me, it was the other day. So my wife and I, we've been getting into running recently. So we've been kind of running every morning, and we live in a condo, and where our parking spaces are, that's normally where we do all of our stretching. So we did our stretching, went on our run, went about our day. That's all fine. And then we had a big event that we were doing all the media coverage for, which was the Sandy's Award, which, by the way, Steve won Ray of Sunshine. So congratulations on that. That's awesome for the community.
My kids still are like, Dad, you really won the Ray of Sunshine Award. Anyway, continue.
Yeah, so we have like that big event. I think, we had to be there like at 11 o'clock, 10:30 or so, and, getting everything packed up, get out the door, and the car is missing.
Whoa, I thought you were going to say the car didn't start.
No, the car was just
missing.
Not there whatsoever. And I was a little bit panicked. I'm like, what is going on? And then I remembered that my registration was expired like 2 weeks, and I forgot to renew it. So our association, tows the cars if the registration isn't up to date.
Stop it.
But what's the funny laugh with moment is that my wife and I were running that morning and stretching by the car, and we never noticed that the car was gone. So I don't know.
You were so focused on your workout.
So focused, yep. But literally, like, it was hilarious because we're like, how on earth do we not notice that our car's gone? And it's like, if someone just stole a car from us and we just wouldn't notice, that's a little concerning, I think.
Yeah, well, people that are listening or watching this podcast now know that you are a good recipient of a a car being stolen.
Yeah. No, that's
so,
me.
that really is funny. And it reminds you that funny doesn't have to be a setup punchline joke. Funny can also be like, I can't believe that happened.
Yeah, no.
I can't believe we missed that. You all were stretching right in the area where the car would be.
Yeah, because we have like a cover over the car and we'll lean against that to like, stretch and whatnot. But we never once noticed that the car was gone.
Until you're like, we need to get in the car now.
Yeah.
And that's when you realize the car was gone.
So I thought I got towed actually between the time that we ran.
I was going to ask that.
And between the time we ran and then the time that we had to leave, because I was on a meeting for like an hour and I was like, oh, it must have got towed during that meeting.
Is that when it got towed?
So I called the tow company. I'm like, hey, y'all literally must have just towed me like 30 minutes ago. And then they're like, oh, it actually says we towed you at like 11 p.m. And then I felt like I sounded like an idiot on the phone. I was like, because they God bless them. Like they probably have to deal with some crazy people on a regular basis.
The tow people are like, look, I'm just the messenger.
I know.
I'm just the tow person. Please don't hate me. Well, good for you that you dealt with an issue. You got to the awards because I saw you and Jewel there.
We got the car too on our way.
You got the car. Good. We like completion. We like the story wrapping up. You got the car on your way there?
Yep.
Wow, you handled that well, Bryce, because I saw you at that event. This is that Lakewood Ranch Business Alliance Sandy's Awards, and you did not show any my car just got towed frustration. Well played.
No, I appreciate that.
Were you a little pissed off?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's hard not to be pissed off.
Yeah. Jewel, were you a little pissed off? Yeah, Jewel's on the headset. Jewel just said that was shopping money. Dude, you do have a good attitude, though, which is kind of one of the things that I appreciate. Here we go. We're going to do the encouragement battle now.
So but we can fight it out if you want.
Fair. I love that. Would be funny. Like two encouragers end up in a brawl, but all they do is validate one another. News at 11. You do have a positive outlook, but just like me, it's not always sunshine. Yeah?
Yeah.
It's not always ray of sunshine. But my question is, my questions as we chop this up, I kind of want to tee up this sort of different lens, different perspective. So when you're seeing things from the camera, from the lens, what are some things that you see that make for a good content, make for a good interview? What are some consistent factors that you've been seeing lately as you look at things from the lens?
Yeah, so I'd say initially, and this is kind of on the context of, like interview style content, more direct to camera stuff, a lot of what you see a lot of businesses doing and putting out there. I've noticed how important authenticity is.
It's so interesting because we talk about that word in live training and in our on-demand asynchronous exploration. But what do you mean by that from your side of things? What does it sound like? What does it look like? And maybe a deeper question is like, can you tell when it's not authentic?
Yeah. I mean, personally, I can tell right away when it's not authentic. And that's when we normally pivot. And I would honestly argue, I'd say almost every single time our initial filming with a new person or new client always comes across a little bit inauthentic. And I think it's because a lot of people, they see social media content, they see what's out there, they compare themselves to these other people, and they try to replicate that. But what's authentic to that person is not authentic to yourself. And what usually happens is those people, they try to be that other person that they aren't. And usually that involves heavily scripting and, 1,000 different retakes. But honestly, like for me, I feel like I can just see right through it. So normally when something like that happens, which is almost every time with a new client, we'll usually immediately pivot. And, the second I catch wind of that, it's like, all right, let's pivot. And then I'll start asking like deeper questions. Like now, if I do an interview with someone, I'm not just opening up with, all right, this is the main topic. Like I'll ease them into it. Let's talk about your family. Let's talk about your upbringing. Let's talk about your background. A lot of times people are really uncomfortable being on camera and it's hard to get them comfortable. So it's like, all right, what is something that, that you really can connect to? Like, I was interviewing with another person the other day and this person, they weren't confident with talking about the business, but they are confident talking about motherhood.
Wow.
Right? So it's like, how can we translate motherhood to business? And it's like, and then the second she like thought of like, okay, the way I talk about my customers and the way I talk about my business, if I talk about it as if, talking to another mother about how to be a mother, like it just really helps her. So I've just found like connection points for people where they can, just connect with something that they're comfortable with.
Bryce, I have to tell you, that's like a director's gift. It
I
really
appreciate
is.
that.
As a young person, for you to be able to get someone to lean into what they know well is really powerful. What are some other, I don't want to say techniques because I don't want it to feel like it's manipulative, but what are some other ways in which you found people drop into their voice? I mean, is it music? Is it the seating arrangement, the lighting? What are some factors? Because I agree with you. When you say action, that's like either an invitation for someone to drop in, but oftentimes, even as a former actor, action usually alarms us into our presentation voice. So what are some other ways you found people? I love the motherhood story.
Yeah.
What other things that people do to like drop into their natural voice?
So I think talking with one another, that's something that we can all kind of naturally do. Yeah. Which, some people are more gifted than others, but, to some degree, we're all comfortable having a conversation with someone, especially, these business owners that usually I work with. What people are not used to, like I said, is being on camera. So some of those techniques that we'll talk about are, so we have a home developer that we work with, and one of the construction guys, he is absolutely amazing when it comes to talking with people. He can give you every little detail that you need to know about these homes. But he just, he's not necessarily as comfortable talking whenever there's a camera around. Like it's constantly stuttering. It's inauthentic because, it's not authentic for him to talk to a camera. It's authentic for him to talk to, people. So a way that we remove that is we actually had my grandpa came out, and we just were like, all right, instead of giving a tour to the camera and myself, we're going to give the tour to my grandpa. And so we're walking around the house, and he's explaining to my grandpa, not the camera. Now the camera's, we position it so it looks like he's kind of talking to the camera. But that's just a natural way for him to go about and talk about these things and explain certain things, because that's what he's comfortable doing. Some other things that I'll do is I'll like kind of purposely hide the camera. Like I'll move the camera so out of frame where it doesn't feel like it's even in the room. And then I'll be like, hey, it's just you and me. We're having a conversation here, just like we are right now. Yeah. And usually that's how we get those authentic responses. And those always come out 100 times better because they're being authentic.
It's so good. Isn't it funny? Like some of the best material is usually caught either, let's say a podcast. Yeah. It's caught while everyone's just riffing, setting up. Yeah. Or it's after the podcast kind of wraps up. Yeah, yeah. And then, have you found that where you've seen some gem moments occur either before the action or after cut? Yeah. Yeah, which is like, as someone young and, still being relatively new to the business space, I'm a sponge. I'm always trying to learn. I know I'm never going to be perfect at something, but I can always strive to just be better and better every day. So speaking about podcasts, there is those nuggets because those are the authentic moments. So it's kind of like a new policy now within Tone Media to have a camera rolling at all times. Yes. Get the microphones on instantly. Cameras are rolling, and the second they walk in the door and the second everyone leaves, because you're right. There are those moments where, you're talking about some gold stuff, but yeah, that's a new policy you could say that we've implemented recently. So, yeah. It's so interesting to me, just this idea of like, and action, it can be an invitation. Yeah. But it also can be really alarming. I don't know. I'm just riffing here. Is there other ways we can, the old standard Hollywood, it was like a marker. Mm-hmm. It wasn't just action. It was like action and like a click. Yeah. Which was really like alarming. Yeah. What are some other, I'm putting you on the spot here, dude. Yeah. What are some other ways that we could enter into the scene without it being jolting? Is there a different word you could use? Or just start rolling? I think it's just starting rolling. Yeah. I think it's just having a conversation, just starting rolling. I always,
whenever I say action, or sometimes I won't even do that with certain clients, each person is different. So it's really important that you're catering towards those people, because some people, like I said, are really good on camera. They like the action. They're really good with that stuff. Other people are extremely shy. And I'd say more often than not, they're really shy. And that's which is something that I've learned from you guys, is how important it is to have each other's back.
Yes.
It is so important, especially in the industry that I work in, that whoever that we're filming with, whoever that we're working with, understands that we are setting them up for success. And we are never going to use content, or we're never going to put something out there that is going to make them look bad. And that is something that you guys do during your training that is so important, because just like being in front of camera, that's really uncomfortable. Going up in front of an audience is extremely uncomfortable. Doing these games can be uncomfortable for people. And you guys do such a good job at teeing that up. Like, we have each other's back. And just filming and watching your guys' sessions, it's so cool to see how shy, like leadership, for example. You guys have this amazing leadership academy program that you guys do with Lakewood Ranch Business Alliance.
Look at you doing the promotion plug.
Shameless.
Cook, Bryce, cook.
You have to pay me a little extra after this, Steve. Sorry.
I love that I just said cook. No. My kids are going to love that moment.
Yeah.
Dad.
Stop being extra, Steve. But yeah, no, it's so amazing to see people walk into those rooms just so uncomfortable, or like so shy and like kind of to themselves. Like, that's who they walk in with. And like this last leadership academy, I only was at the first session and the last session. The one prior, I sat through and did it with you guys. Yeah. But so I got to see that natural progression, which you may not notice as much, because it's like there's a little bit of change every time, right? Mm-hmm. But that second session, I was in there for the first one and then the second one, and just the difference was drastic. Wow. Just walking into the room, everyone just sits down, they're all to themselves. That last session, I don't think a single person was by themselves. They're all mingling, they're all talking with each other. And it was just so cool to see. But using those principles back onto what I was talking about, is I'll see the same thing with camera. Like, people are extremely uncomfortable most of the time in front of the camera. But when you set it up in a way where it's like, hey, we have your back. You're okay, like welcoming, little mess ups, like understanding that that's just part of the process, and having that safe environment. It's so amazing to see how that can transform from being really shy and kind of keeping to yourself to being, more authentic and, really being yourself in front of the camera, and honestly, looking like a pro by the end and being super comfortable. I think it's really cool. And I think you guys, here, back to the encouragement.
So funny.
I thank you guys, because I feel so blessed and honored to be able to work with you guys, especially, like I said, when I started my business, just kind of going off topic a little bit, one of the first things I did was like, all right, I don't have any clients. So what can I do to kind of get going? I was like, all right, I'm going to do pretty much a free video for someone and just kind of see if they like it, and I'll trade kind of like give you a really good deal, and in return maybe you'll give me a referral if you like the services that I provided. So I did that for this person, and who just happens to be one of your wife's friends.
So that was Mara and Dan's?
Yes.
No way. Hold on. I want to talk about authentic. We didn't prep this. Well, we didn't prep any of this conversation. Well, we have a framework, but
yeah.
I want to really slow this down for a second. This is really important for people to understand that when you begin, sometimes it's not about being transactional.
Yep.
It's about providing a value, and maybe even doing an in-kind donation to show that you have value. You did a video for Dan and Mara Gilmore, and it was a video, I think, to promote their Airbnb. Is that right?
Yep.
Keep going there. But this is interesting, because this is how you got on my radar.
Yeah. And then, so I did that video. That's a great point about the transactional thing. I think a lot of people, especially starting business and just friends that I have, they focus so much on like, I need to make money right away. And they think of it as transactions. And, being recently married, I'm realizing that that's not the case. And it's really about serving one another and providing value to one another. But back to so I did that video, right? It was kind of just like hey, I would love to provide this for you guys. And, they were so fantastic, just through and through. Luckily, I think I did a pretty good job for them. They were really happy with it. And then I believe your wife got in touch with them, and
Jackie saw the video that you had produced for their Airbnb, because she's a big supporter of Dan and Mara. I think she was just like, hey, look at their their cottage that they had refurbished and renovated. And from there, Jackie was running her Well Cycle studio, and she said, I would love to use this person who had done this content. You had a drone shot, you had some nice shots of the interior, exterior.
Yeah.
And so she hired you to do a video with her indoor cycling participants. And that's when I met you. And I have to be honest, there was this part of me that felt really guilty because you did such a good job with Jackie. And I had turned to Jackie, I said, I'm going to steal him. I'm going to use him for Game On. But we made sure that we were cool with that. But yeah, that's how it all began.
Yeah. And, we got going right away. And, being a young, hungry entrepreneur, I think it's really easy to get caught up in like the hustle grind. I need to make money. It's like kind of like selfish desires. I think that's really easy to get caught up in. And just working with you guys so early on really taught me how important it is to be authentic to myself, to not be transactional, and how important it is to have each other's back, all those different values. But those really got ingrained and instilled in me and the company and our team now that we have at a really early stage. And that was really pivotal for me because that really taught me to go above and beyond just taking the photos and taking the videos. Because now, we're able to be friends to these people. We're able to, we're able to build so much trust that I feel like, you could say our competitors and whatnot maybe struggle with. So I really appreciate that, and just having those values ingrained, which, I learned from Game On. And that was just, because we want to be, I always like to say, like, we want to be the Chick-fil-A of marketing companies and, digital companies, and, just taking those extra steps of care and, loving and serving one another and connecting with people is just so important.
I think with that lens, Bryce, and this was kind of my next question I had in my mind that you did for us actually, I don't want to keep playing up this sort of young thing in a patronizing way at all. It's wonderful. Mm-hmm. We've got to speak life into younger folks, and we've got to work together in generations. But you did something very interesting early on with us. You would stop the scene and you'd give clear direction. And I guess my question really is about, was that ever daunting for you, especially when you're talking to someone who's older than you? Like, example was Jake and I. You've got two guys in their 50s, right?
Yeah.
Pretty, I'd say, strong personalities. And here you are. Talk a little bit about the way you navigate that dynamic, because you at some point have to step in and go, cut, hold on a second. I don't like that take.
Yeah.
Chop that up, brother. So
something that's helped me with that is, prior to all this media stuff, I was a coach, and coaching, we coached typically kids 15 and under. I was a head coach of the sailing team, and we were able to build that, to be, we actually had a kid, my final year of coaching was ranked number 6 in the entire country, which was just incredible because we were kind of like the underdogs. So I learned a lot of coaching, techniques and whatnot through that. But in terms of giving feedback, which sometimes can be intimidating, especially, like you said, being young and whatnot, coming into a room and you have very respectable people. I think what really that comes down to is, first of all, building trust. Having trust is so important, and I'll never do that right away. It takes time to build that trust with the client, with someone, to be able to give that, constructive criticism or give that hard feedback. But I think it also comes down to is, and, you could probably speak more to this than myself, but a lot of the people that we work with are so used to just everyone going, yes, 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 yes. And, any idea that they have, it's like, okay, they're the boss, right? So, no one wants to let down the boss. But a lot of those times, those people, and we hear this time and time again from not just you guys, but all of our customers, that's actually a big thing that they love about us so much, is like, we're not afraid to, with trust, we're not afraid to, give that feedback and be like, hey, amazing idea, but actually I think we should go a different route with it. But yeah, it's just, having that trust is so important. Sorry, I lost my train of thought a little bit.
Well, I also
trying to be authentic.
I got so excited.
Yeah.
And I have to jump in here and just drive that point home, Bryce.
Yeah.
Because what you said was so powerful, which is you have to earn the right.
Yeah.
We talk about this even in like youth ministry, and Jewel having been a part of YWAM, and Jackie, my wife, being a part of Young Life. Earn the right to speak life into someone, earn the right to give direction and feedback. But the other thing that you said, which is so powerful, is most of the folks that you're interviewing are probably the leaders of their company or the voice of their company or the face of their company. And so they're not always told what they need to hear. They're often told what they want to hear. But here's my question back to you.
Yeah.
When you give them clear direction and you're honest with them in a respectful manner, and you don't tell them what they want to hear, you tell them what they need to hear from authority, how do they respond?
I'd say we've never had a negative response to that. It's always positive. I think to them it's kind of like, it feels good. It feels good because it's, first of all, I think that kind of, for us, like when you hire an expert at something, you want them to be the expert in that, and you want them to be the ones that give clarity to that, and you want to trust and respect that. When someone hires someone, or when someone brings someone onto a team, and you're just, all they're doing is yes, I think that actually positions the authority where it's like, okay, I was the expert on it, but now that I'm not the one giving any direction and feedback in it, I think that kind of pushes it back to the other person, and now there's a bit of a, like, it's not like the transfer of knowledge, and I guess you could say like the authority in that respective realm isn't really well established. You
don't want a doctor to hand you an x-ray and then look at you as a patient and go, your guess is as good as mine. No doc, your guess is better. But I love what you're saying here.
That's perfect. That's the best analogy.
The doctor analogy is easy because the stakes are high, and when you're dealing with health, you revert to the expert. But whether it's construction, you're getting your driveway paved, you're hiring someone to direct you in content. Yeah, leaders like me want to honor leaders like you. And I love what you said. You don't want to then give away your authority, because then why did they hire you in the first place?
Yeah. And I think too, like, that can kind of go like reversing it. Now, I started off just by myself, right? So now I have a team, and now I'm trying to delegate certain tasks. And what I found myself, and I always have to like catch myself, is like, I'll hire someone to be that expert, which is the same thing that people hire me for, right? And so I'm hiring those people, and sometimes I'll notice where I won't give them the space to grow and to make those corrections to myself. And I always have to check myself and be like, all right, hey, I hired them to be the expert. I need to give them room to grow. And I need to give, and it's, my like micromanaging just doesn't work. And I'm realizing that, and it's just, I think like where I'm so blessed to work with the clients that I have. Like, every single one of them is truly absolutely amazing to work with. I feel like I'm like, I'm like, man, I've never had like a really like a bad client before. And I feel so lucky to have that. But I think like, good leaders, I think, do a really good job at respecting like, hey, you are the expert in that space, and I'm going to allow you to grow in that, and I'm going to trust your word and your feedback on that. And I think that's really important as well.
What would you say now that you're growing the company, and just like Game On, we have depth, but it takes time. But there also has to be kind of a tone media way. I'm putting you on the spot here, brother.
No, go for it.
And we got to remember, this is laugh with, not at. So there can be levity and joy. But what would you say when you see one of your teammates behind the lens creating content? What are some of your sort of non-negotiables when it comes to like how Tone Media is going to approach this content capture versus another company? And the difference doesn't have to be radical. But what are some of the things that you're like, hey, this is going to be a Tone Media style production?
I'd say, like content alone, it's a creative, it's an art. So I think like that you can't be too strict, and every client is different. So in terms of the actual content that we produce, I'd say we very much cater it towards the client. And what we actually have a really deep team of editors, and we won't just have the same person for every single person. Certain people like different styles, and we'll make sure that person gets put with someone that can edit that same style to the best of their ability. But I'd say the biggest thing in terms of like company values that are non-negotiable is like customer experience and just the communication. Communication is so important for us, and being a new company, like we're going to make mistakes. We're all learning together. And I think establishing the culture, like, hey, we are new. Let's all take ownership in this. And that's kind of like how we kind of structure our pay models as well, is like, hey, we all have a little bit of ownership in this. Let's grow together and let's embrace failures and mistakes, because those are inevitable and those are going to happen. And it's only a failure if we make it a failure. I always tell all my friends, like, I've never failed because I've either learned or I've grew from it.
It's great.
And so having that mindset is just so important, where it's like, okay, we're going to make a little mistake here and there. Ideally, we usually always catch them before the customers even notice them. But just embracing that and not being like, okay, hey, you're new to this, or hey, you're new to the company. You messed up. Like, instead of honing down on that, just being like, hey, that's fine. Let's learn, let's grow from that. I'd say that's a big non-negotiable that we have, is just constantly learning and just customer communication, making sure that our customers aren't really wondering things. I always, ideally it's like, you're a customer of ours, like you're never wondering what's going to happen or whatnot, because we're just over communicating that to you.
Yeah.
And just kind of making it as easy of a process, because there's a reason you're outsourcing to us. Yeah. You don't have time for it, most likely, right? You don't have the time to go through all of that. So for us, it's like, okay, let's come in there, and how can we use as little of your time as possible, right? And make it, deliver a product that, you don't even really notice is even going on. And I think if we do our perfect job, we're not just getting results, but we're doing it in a way where you don't even have to stress about it. You don't have to think about it. And part of that is also establishing a lot of trust, because the more hands-off you are, the more trust that has to be built. Yeah. So usually we'll kind of ease into that. We won't just have a customer right away and be like, all right, we're filming and then we're going to do everything else. No, there's always a, back and forth in the beginning as we learn styles. And there's always like, you always have the final say, right? But building that trust over time to where eventually it becomes something where it's like, all right, you just show up on film day, don't have to worry about the rest.
And you said something indirectly I think is really important in business, which is, it's not just you creating content to help market the company. It's allowing that company to focus on what their core competency is.
Yeah.
I'll just, again, use a basic metaphor. If you're experts at like laying down tile in commercial properties, that should be the focus.
Yep.
And if commercial tile property layer downers all of a sudden start putting their videography hat on, their content hat on, it can take them off of their focus.
Yeah.
So I think that's a huge value proposition that you bring, because a lot of companies, Bryce, I'm assuming, do think, I'll do this on my own. Have you seen that a little bit, where companies maybe try to put their videography hat on, their content creation hat on, and they kind of maybe start to get off focus?
Yeah, no, big time. And, I've even like certain customers that I've onboarded, they've actually like complained about that, where they're like, they tried to do it and they spent so much time on it, and it just ultimately took away from their product and what they're really good at and what they're the experts in. And that's, why they brought us on.
Do you think some of that has to do with like people watching it online? It's not so much comparison as the thief of joy, which I do believe comparison is the thief of joy. And you mentioned that a little earlier when you talk about watching someone on camera, and that's what we think we should be. And then you find out later that person on camera had a huge production and script.
Yeah.
But do you think sometimes even people that run companies are watching all this content online and they're like, oh, that seems easy. I can do that.
Yeah, no, all the time. Yeah. I think a lot of people don't necessarily fully realize how much behind the scenes goes on when it comes to content creation, whether that's photography, videography.
Good content actually might be so good that it looks easy when you see it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you want the videos to flow, and like the more flow it has, in my opinion, the better it is. But yeah, the editing and all that stuff behind the scenes, because a lot of people think it's like, okay, you just flip on a camera, that's it. But that's really, if you had to put numbers to it, I'd say like 10 to 20% of the actual work, of the fulfillment, you could say, is actually the filming and the photography part. The 80, 90%, everything else is all behind the scenes and all editing, which, like I said, if we're doing a good job, you as a customer will never even notice is going on. And so, yeah, I think a lot of people think they can just flip on the camera and, that's it. But they forget about, there's so much other time that goes into it. But there's certainly instances where you can do that, where you can flip on like a phone and be authentic. And I think that just depends on what your company is.
Well, you've done a good job with Game On, where you say, hey, team, you all can do this part of it. But we're not doing the cuts and the edits and the setup of the tech and the drone shots, right? So I'm sure there's this interesting balance certainly, where you tell the company, hey, you can do this on your own.
Yeah.
And this is where you need to hand the baton off.
Yeah, totally. And we specialize, I'd say, in more, we work with, in the corporate space, as well as, a lot in like real estate, home building, construction, and usually we're with the more high-end companies. So the product we deliver is very luxury, which you really can't really do that with an iPhone. Right. But yeah, there's always things, and we always encourage like little things like posting on your stories, like posting updates. Those are all things that you can do yourself, and we'll coach you through those processes, because but we always that still takes time at the end of the day, and that's time on you, and you may not even know how to put it on the story or put it on the reel. So that's where we step in to help you with that.
Controversial question.
Go for it.
Have you ever lost a drone?
I have not.
What?
So the drone...
Have you almost lost a drone? Have you been fearful that the drone was just going to take off? And
so, I should knock on wood.
That's for Micah.
Yeah. Crap. The drone, the first drone I bought for the company, we still have. It's still the go-to. I've had a close encounter with a power line where it didn't, because the drones nowadays are so advanced that they have sensors on them. So if you're about to run into a tree or something, they'll pick up on them.
Do you need like a license to drive the drone?
You do need a license.
You have a license to drive a drone?
I do have a license.
Bryce has a drone license.
Yeah. It's in my wallet.
Prove it. No, I'm kidding. What did you do? Did you have to go online and like take a drone class? Yeah.
So you have to take it's actually through the FAA.
This is getting heavy. Like this is deep. We're not going to get into conspiracy theories, but the FAA regulates drone certifications.
Yeah, for commercial use. Like if you wanted to go out, you could go film, you could film something, but you can't use it for commercial purposes.
Who would walk up to you and be like, hey man, I need to see the drone license stat? Like, is there a...
I've never had it happen.
Yeah. So. There's like a
most people don't know about it, but
well, they do now that this podcast is going to go viral. There's the parking meter person, right? Yep. So there's a drone, like a fishing license.
Yeah.
Some people have been out fishing, and you've seen the warden. I don't know what this move is. The warden come in and say, "Hey, where's your fishing license?" Yeah. There could be someone who could check your drone license.
Yeah. I think like police is like the enforcers usually for that sort of thing. But yeah.
I'm going to check your drone license after this podcast.
You better.
No, I just from an integrity standpoint, because I don't need to be there's liability issues.
No, if you hire someone to do drone work, make sure they're licensed.
That's amazing. Like, how long was the course?
The course is actually, it's not as like strenuous as you would think it is. You have to get like a 80% or 70%. I don't fully remember what you have to get to pass. But I'd say studying takes about, like 15 to 20 hours. So it's not something that's super extensive.
15 to 20 hours, though? That's pretty...
It does take up time, yeah.
Wow. And did you have to actually like show that you can... Or is this all online?
So it's all... It's not like a driving test. There's no like actual... you show up and you have to fly a drone around a course, but it's all just safety questions, and there's a lot of regulations, like, how high can you fly? Or, there's like with airports, you have to know like the different classes of airports and the different regulations behind those. And that's really the biggest thing. which is, it can be very complicated. It's a lot of memorization.
I'm really glad I asked that question. I didn't have that prepared, but I'm really glad that you are licensed. This would have been awkward if you were an unlicensed drone.
Like, well, Steve, we're actually cutting.
Edit that out.
Yeah.
Bryce, what kind of last on that drone thing though?
Yeah.
So last year, we're not time stamping this, but we had Helene and we had Milton in our region. Mm-hmm. You actually went out to Anna Maria Island and caught footage. Of what was a pretty devastating scenario that this community went through. What was that like for you? And what was the response? Yeah.
So initially I was hesitant to even do those drone videos just out of respect. And, we were affected, from the storm. We actually just we had a tarp on our roof until I'd say like 3 or 4 months ago. Yeah. So, it was a year. Relatively recent. Yeah. We had a whole year without an actual roof. We had a tarp over us. We still have some damage. We live in HOA, so we kind of have to wait for them a little bit on that end. But we still have some damage that certainly affected us. But like I said, there were 100% people way, way more affected than us. Friends, family. I know you were affected greatly from the storm. But at first I was hesitant because I'm like, I don't want to show like a sensitive topic. I don't want to broadcast that out there. And that was like, so at first, like I said, I was hesitant to do that. Mm-hmm. And just for context for everyone that knows, I took different videos of, Anna Maria, Longboat Key, Bradenton, Sarasota, just different areas that were affected of the storm. And, I used the drone to capture those. Yeah. But what I really found is I put out that first video and a lot of people, I'd say the majority of the population was all evacuating. Yeah. And they're all, I think like almost the entire state was evacuated. They had to open up, an extra lane on the highway for people. And, my wife was one of those people that evacuated, and it was, almost impossible coming back home. It took way longer just because you have the entire state of Florida trying to come back. Yeah. So a lot of people are, frantic and, well, how's my house okay? What does the area look like? And so those videos were able to provide a lot of value to the community because they were able to see what different neighborhoods looked like. They were able to see the areas that were, affected, what areas weren't. And it actually proved to be extremely useful for a lot of the people, especially being on Anna Maria Island. I mean, you couldn't get out there. Yeah. You literally could not get out there almost like upwards of a week afterwards, like even if you live there.
For me, Bryce, I have to just tell you, and I kind of set up that question knowing that I thought you handled it so well, because I'm not trying to make a pun here, but you have a good tone. Like, you didn't use it for exploitation, and you didn't put some goofy music behind it to get it to be a viral video. I remember watching those videos on your Instagram, getting a sense of where my friends' homes were, how they were doing, how was the pier, what's going on with the different restaurants in the region, because we cared deeply, and it was really the only way to get an update on the land.
Yeah. No, certainly. I mean, even business owners couldn't even get out to the island, for like weeks afterwards. And the only reason we were able to get out there, obviously the drone helps a lot, but my grandpa has a really small boat that somehow like miraculously survived both storms. It's like a little 16, 17 foot boat, and it was in the water the entire time. But we were able to use that boat and kind of get to certain areas and show people what was going on. And we were also, those videos did, not intended, but they got millions of views.
But those millions of views wasn't because it was shock value or like trying to be funny or inappropriate. It was, I'm assuming the views were because people were feeling informed, and people were feeling compassion, and people were feeling empathy for that region. I don't think it was about celebrating disaster. I think it was about awareness.
Yeah. And, anytime you're putting out something, especially like a touchy subject like that, which is still a touchy subject in our community to this day, just because of how much it has affected and still affects people. But a lot of those videos, like I said, they got millions of views. They were shared by, tens of thousands of people. And we were able to put all the different resources in those videos where like a lot of people were asking, where can I help? Where can I volunteer? Where can I donate supplies to? And, we were able to kind of list those things and, kind of partner with certain local organizations and, give them shout outs and be like, help guide people to where they can help. And we're also able to just someone that I happened to meet, a single mother that, lost her house. It burned down after Helene. But we were able to raise a pretty good amount of money for her, just to kind of, nothing crazy, but just something. And that felt really good to, kind of help out the community with that as awesome. Well. And, unironically, it also, a lot of people saw those videos, and that honestly was kind of like a pivotal moment in our business in terms of just people seeing also Tone Media. And it wasn't planned. That was not the goal of it at all, but a lot of people just happened to see it.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm finding is whenever I go into things with the intention of serving, not trying to just pull money and have those, but whenever I go into a project, a new customer, whatever it is, when I go through that with a servant mindset, usually the rewards and the return is 10x what I thought it would be. And it's just crazy. And I've just noticed that with my own life, especially like with our finances, recently married, and, it's important for us to, give back and start donating, what we've been making. And since we've been doing that, our revenue has gone way up unintentionally. I believe, God's the one moving through that. But it's just cool how when you shift the mindset from transactional to servant-hearted, how much return and gain you unintentionally receive. So, back to non-negotiables, that's a non-negotiable in our company. It's just being a servant heart in everything that we do, whether that's client communication, the deliverables that we offer. But it's funny how that works out.
I have to tell you, Bryce, that was your drop-in moment, what you just shared right there. You talk about being real, being authentic. I'm going to leave you with this from your lens, from your perspective. What would you share with most of us who feel, even me, feel vulnerable on camera? What would be, we kind of started the podcast with that fun, light moment where you and Jewel didn't realize your car had been towed, even though you were working out and stretching in the parking lot where the car...
If anyone wants to steal a car,
they're a good culprit.
We're good.
What would you say, maybe just one simple, practical piece of advice for those leaders out there, those business owners that need to be on camera to share and be a voice for their company?
I would say, don't chase perfection. Every single person you see out there that has those hundreds, millions of followers, they started somewhere as well. And if you scroll way back, it is imperfect. It doesn't look professional. There's nothing great about that content besides the fact that it's authentic. And I think just being consistent and not chasing perfection is just the most important thing. And understanding whenever we start something new. I mean, this podcast, I think, is a big example of, we put this podcast off because we were chasing perfection. And it's like, all right, hey, let's just do it. And I think having that mindset is just so important. Even in business, like I've really realized that, where it's like, you'll never be perfect. So if you keep chasing it, you're never going to have it. And I think a lot of people are hesitant to even start because they want the first thing they do to be perfect. And that's just not going to be the case.
I love that you said authenticity and consistency is going to be your driving force. Perfection is, you keep trying to chase it, you'll never do it.
Yep.
So good. Well, that is Bryce, founder, grand poobah of the Bryce Tone Media with his wife, Jewel. Brother, I so appreciate you getting outside your comfort zone, going from one side of the camera, handing those headsets over to Jewel so you can be on this side of the camera. It's not too bad, is it?
No, it's great. I was definitely nervous starting off, talking about authentic.
Good. Now you know how we feel. now you know what you do to us.
Exactly.
Glad.
Exactly.
That was the whole purpose of that podcast. No, it wasn't, but I'm glad we had that moment. Hey, in the spirit of imperfection, check out our podcast. You can go to the links wherever they are, wherever Bryce and Jewel put them, along with our teammate Aaron from Game On Nation. But check out the podcast. This is Laugh With, and you can see it and listen to it where all podcasts are available at the link below, above, to the left, to the right. Bryce, from one encourager to the next, you are incredible. Your wife, Jewel, is incredible. I speak life into you because you young people are doing so much good work to change this community and impact this community and to add value, man. I so am thankful for you and so excited for your future. So
I appreciate that.
Thank you, brother.
Right back at you.
Let's go. Encourager to encourager. Laugh with Bryce Tone.